The relationship between the European Union and Ukraine is complicated. On February 28, 2022, Ukraine submitted an application to join the EU as they proceed. 8 EU presidents demanded an expedited accession process, while Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, asked for quick membership under a new special procedure. Ursula von der Leyen, president of the European Commission, declared that although the process would take time, she supports Ukraine's entry. Candidate nations must meet specific requirements set forth by the EU in order to be considered for membership. These conditions, often known as the Copenhagen criteria, are specified in the EU Treaty on European Union. Stability of institutions. A candidate nation must have strong institutions that uphold democracy, the rule of law, human rights, and the protection of minorities in order to be eligible for EU membership. In addition, the candidate nation needs to have a working market economy in order to be able to withstand market forces and competition inside the EU. Additionally, the candidate nation must be able and ready to accept and put into effect the body of EU laws and regulations known as the Acquis Communautaire. This covers laws and rules pertaining to things like competition, the environment, and agriculture, among other things. The nation must also be compatible with EU policies. To do this, the candidate nation must show that it is able to actively engage in EU decision-making processes and align its policies with those of the EU. A number of discussions and evaluations are carried out by the European Commission, European Parliament, and Council of the European Union during the process of a state applying to become a member of the EU. These procedures assess how well the candidate nation is doing in terms of fulfilling the requirements and putting the required reforms into place. Hello, and thanks for tuning in. Before we go any further, please take a moment to support us by liking this video. Subscribe and activate the bell notification feature so you'd always know when we put out new videos. And remember, sharing is caring. Okay, let's get back to it. Ukraine's ambitions for deeper links and integration with Europe have received backing from the EU. With the intention of advancing democratic changes in Ukraine and strengthening political and economic cooperation, Ukraine and the EU signed an association agreement in 2014. In order to improve trade relations, this agreement calls for the establishment of a deep and comprehensive free trade area, DCFTA, between the EU and Ukraine. In addition, the EU has given Ukraine financial support and assistance in a number of sectors, including conflict resolution, governance, and economic reforms. It is imperative to acknowledge that the dynamic nature of the relationship between the EU and Ukraine is shaped by a multitude of geopolitical considerations. The European Council voted to begin accession talks with Ukraine on December 14, 2023. Along with Albania, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Georgia, Moldova, Montenegro, North Macedonia, Serbia, and Turkey, is one of the 9 current candidates for membership in the EU. Since November 2023, the EU and member states have supported Ukraine with military, financial, humanitarian, and emergency aid totaling over 67 billion euros. The EU also agrees to grant Ukraine access to research and knowledge, political and financial support, and preferential access to EU markets. Both sides pledge in the agreement to support a slow but steady transition toward the European Defense Agency and common security and defense policy of the EU. President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine led the nation in celebrating what was largely considered to be a historic breakthrough. Zelensky declared on social media that the decision to start EU membership negotiations was a win for both Ukraine and all of Europe. The EU's decision will give Ukraine's military effort fresh momentum and drastically change the perception around the Russian invasion. The beginning of accession talks for Ukraine marks a significant turning point in a geopolitical reformation that started decades ago and has gained unparalleled impetus in the wake of Russia's invasion, even though it does not guarantee future EU membership. A nation like Ukraine can benefit from membership in the EU in a number of ways. But it's vital to remember that the effects can change based on the particulars and the changes made. Here are a few possible benefits. The economic benefits will expand as a result of this membership in the EU single market, which may open up new doors for foreign investment, commerce, and consumer access. Jobs and economic prosperity may result from this. Furthermore, financial support and aid are frequently provided to EU member states for the development of their infrastructure and other initiatives. Political stability and security will also exist in Ukraine since EU membership encourages member state collaboration and political stability. It can give Ukraine a forum for participating in EU decision-making processes, collaborating on regional security, and engaging diplomatically. Membership can give Ukraine access to a range of EU projects, programs, and financing opportunities. Ukraine will once more have access to EU programs and funds. This can help industries, including infrastructure development, research, education, and agriculture. Since adopting and implementing EU laws, regulations, and standards is a requirement of EU membership, harmonization of standards and regulations is also considered as a benefit. This may result in advancements in fields like human rights, environmental standards, product quality, and consumer protection. Not to mention, Ukraine deserves enhanced mobility and interchange. Being a member of the EU can make it simpler for Ukrainian nationals to travel and find employment inside the EU. Additionally, it can provide educational possibilities and cross-cultural exchange. And that concludes today's video. Do let us know what you think about today's discussion in the comments section below. And you can support this channel by liking this video. Subscribe and activate the bell notification feature so you'd always know when we put out new content. And remember, sharing is caring.